All right, what's up, guys? Here we are on YouTube Live. I'm gonna start making these videos more regularly, and so I'm gonna try. My idea is to do 3 p.m. Every weekday. I'll start putting out a little video. Nothing too long, just a short video, something you guys can share easily. I've had some people ask me to do it, so I figured I would start that up. All right, so it's the day after Memorial Day, so I figured that would be the topic for today. Hope everybody enjoyed their barbecues yesterday and your long weekend. I hate Memorial Day. I absolutely hate it. And it's not that I have anything against having a few beers at a barbecue or getting an extra day off work. I in fact quite like those things. But I hate the holiday. I don't hate it in theory. In theory, I think it's a really great idea, a wonderful idea to have a day where we think about all the people who die in war. Seems like a pretty important topic, particularly to an anti-war person like myself. But I hate what it becomes in practice, which is just like an unbelievable exercise in stupidity, dogma, and virtue signaling, which is all you see all around the mainstream media. It's all the politicians who send these kids off to die in war without thinking twice about it. By the way, a lot of people behind them who are making a shit ton of money off these wars, and they just keep having them. We keep sending kids off to die in war, and but then as long as everybody like says a nice thing or Obama tweets out like I remember all the people who I sent to go die, then everybody's okay and they get some type of credit for this, or I don't know. It would almost be unimaginable if you just talked about this in theory that you could have a day where the whole point of the day is to think about people who died in war, and you would have an entire all these different media conglomerations, and not one of them would ever start having a serious conversation about like, oh man, did any of these kids die when they didn't need to? Maybe we shouldn't have sent them to these wars. No, not none of it doesn't happen at all. It's just a empty, stupid, gooey nonsense that you get from everybody. And I already hear all of the people criticizing me for this. I get it all the time. Whenever I go down this road of like, oh, I'm anti-war, I don't just blindly support the military. I know because they're my government's killing force, I'm supposed to blindly support them and thank them all so much for their service. And I don't. I mean, I feel bad for them. I'll give them that, but I don't. I never say thank you for your service. I think some crazy statist religious idea that you meet one person and you're like, oh hey, what'd you do today? And they're like, well, I volunteered at a soup kitchen. And you're like, oh okay. And then someone else, oh, what'd you do? Well, I just got back from Iraq where I was shooting up a bunch of people who never posed any threat to us. It's like, well, thank you so much for that. What a wonderful thing. And I know I already hear the fucking stupid responses, something about how I only have the freedom to say this because those men and women are willing to go fight in the military or something. Yeah, that's okay. Except what war could you possibly think of what war in the last 50 years could you even kind of make the argument over from World War II? By the way, it was a stupid argument then. That whole thing that like we'd all be speaking German if it hadn't been for the American military, which is just like absurd. The idea like Hitler took over a nice little chunk of Europe and he held it for a few years. He couldn't take Russia, but the idea that he was going to cross the Atlantic and then come over here and then take over America. Let me tell you something. Nobody's ever going to take over America, and it has absolutely nothing to do with our military. The reason why we haven't been invaded since fucking 1812, and they failed miserably when they tried to do that, is because we have guns. We have more guns than fucking Jesus could produce. There's no way anyone's taking over here. Look at our military, the most badass, powerful military in the history of the world. They're still struggling to hold down Afghanistan. I think the Taliban has more control of land now than they did in 2001. Our military can't even take Afghanistan, but you're telling me what the government of Iraq was going to take over Texas? Good luck. Good luck to anybody who wants to take over Texas. I hope you come give that your best shot. You have no idea what's waiting for you. No, none of these governments have ever been a threat to our. The only government that's a threat to our freedom is our own, and they're doing a pretty damn good job of robbing us of our freedom. So yeah, no, the idea that any of these soldiers that are in these wars did anything to protect our freedoms, complete bullshit. And anybody who says that to you, they never have like an argument behind that. It's just like you're supposed to accept that as like a dogmatic truth. That yes, I wouldn't have the right to podcast if Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi were still in power or something like that. It's utterly ridiculous. But I do. It's not that I don't feel for them. I feel bad for all the troops who died in these wars. I think the vast majority of them are people who were completely brainwashed. They were tricked and essentially bribed into going over there. So that's yeah. I feel bad for all those guys. I have sympathy for them. But to be completely honest, that's not really where I have the most sympathy. I have a lot more sympathy for the people who died in these countries that we invaded. I know you're not supposed to feel that way because that's like the USA military is Team America and that's Team Good, and an Iraqi citizen is just someone over in Team Bad. But I don't know. I feel more for them, probably because I make a distinction between civilians and military. I don't think that it sucks if you were brainwashed and tricked and bribed, but you still did sign up for war. The Iraqi people didn't sign up for war. So maybe we should have a holiday where we think about the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that have died in U.S. NATO wars. I saw one report that said 4 million Muslims have died in U.S. NATO related wars. I don't know if that's actually true or not. I don't think anyone really knows. Like, how many people died in the war in Iraq? I don't think we know. I've seen estimates from 100,000 up to 1 million. Who the fuck knows? There's a lot more millions and millions of lives that have been ruined from that, and that the entire nation's destroyed. Yeah, no, I don't know. If we're gonna have a day to fucking think about the troops who are dead, why don't we acknowledge the fact that a whole bunch of them didn't have to die. A whole bunch of them didn't have to die. Everybody knows that. I can't even believe, and there's a few people out there who are still support the war in Iraq, say it wasn't a terrible idea. Even John McCain, the guy who's got a boner for every single military conflict possible, even he had to come out and admit it was a mistake. It was, yeah, now that brain cancer is about to take my life from me, I acknowledge it was kind of a mistake, a little bit of a mistake, a mistake that killed hundreds of thousands of people. And hey, if you're only even if you don't care about them, right? Like fuck them, fuck everybody on that side. All we care about is Americans who die. Okay, well, what is it? Something in the neighborhood of 4,500 to 5,000 soldiers died, and what John McCain is now admitting was a mistake. Another 30,000 or something like that were wounded. I don't know how many of them have come back and committed suicide since then. I think it's something like 20 a day commit suicide. I don't know how many of them that did tours in Iraq, probably a lot. And then, of course, also it cost something like $2.5 trillion for the whole thing. So, yeah, John McCain, I would call that a mistake. For me, a mistake is like when I forget to text my fiance when I told her I would. But I guess that's a John McCain mistake. And by the way, it brings out the worst. All the right wingers, it's like, for as much as they complain about the left wing snowflakes and social justice warriors, let them take a look at this video, and believe me, they'll be just as triggered as anybody on the left has ever been. And then for the left, you think maybe you guys could spend a little bit of time being outraged by this, outraged by the hundreds of thousands of people we're killing over there, but they're a little bit too busy with issues that really matter. Like, Roseanne Barr might have tweeted the wrong thing, so her fucking show's got to get canceled, right? And think about that, right? Think about that, because we have a culture that's so outraged about anybody saying a slightly, like an off-color joke or something that could be construed as a racist remark, because our culture is so outraged by that. ABC just canceled what was their most successful show in years. Hey, they got something like 26 million people watched the debut of the new Roseanne show. Doesn't matter. There's so much outrage in the culture that it's fucking canceled. Just imagine if we had a fraction of that outrage for starting unnecessary wars. Think about how easily we could shut that shit down. Imagine, John McCain, he made a big mistake of supporting the war in Iraq. He got to be a senator for the rest of his life. But no, Roseanne Barr she's got to go. As all these people who I just heard, lecturing everybody about how, ease up. Michelle Wolf's just a comic. She can make a comment if she wants to. Oh, but now Roseanne's got to go, because Roseanne wasn't making fun of Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She was making fun of an Obama cabinet member. So that's off limits, right? They've got to go. How about fuck all that shit? How about I defend Michelle Wolf and Roseanne Barr? Do you really want to live in a world where comedians can't say something? Comedians have to stay in their lane, or, oh my God, if they go out and say something that wasn't approved opinion, they've got to go away, even if they're the biggest comedian in the country, even if their show's the biggest show in the country, they got to go. I don't know. Let's direct some of that energy toward state sponsored mass murder, state sanctioned mass murder. How about that? How about that drives a little bit of that? I know not as much as Roseanne gets, but maybe just like a fraction. At this point, I would take a tenth of it. Anyway, that's where we're at. And John McCain basically admitted it. He was wrong about this all along. All of us who have been against the war, we were right about this all along. So maybe we should start listening to the people who were right this whole time. They would have saved hundreds of thousands of deaths and trillions of dollars, and maybe we should hear them out going forward. All right. That's all for today. I'll be back at 3 p.m. tomorrow with a brand new video. If you like this, you want to listen to longer form stuff, check out my podcast, Part of the Problem, on the Gas Digital Network. All right, later.